Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the anti-TBR book tag. I'll know on BookTube there are so many different tags that people use, you know, specific questions to answer, and I just found this one and I thought it was super interesting because most of them are like books that you want to read, books you like, and this is all about books that you don't want to read and have no interest in reading. So I thought this would be fun, a little something different. So let's just get into the video. Actually, no, before we get into the video, quick disclaimer. This is just my opinions. It has no bearing on how good or bad these books actually are. I have nothing against anyone who likes these books or authors. I have nothing against the authors themselves, anything like that. Just want to cover my bases. This is simply my opinion, and that is all. So question number one is a popular book that you have no interest in reading. Now I actually have two answers for this because I just couldn't limit it to one. So my first answer is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This one was like everyone's favorite rom-com like 2 years ago, and I just had zero interest in it based on reviews I heard from other people. I wouldn't necessarily like completely write it off immediately, but the premise about like a scientist or a grad student who fake dates her professor, which I wasn't interested in that. And then from some people whose opinions I trust, I heard how she's like the manic pixie dream girl, so quirky and different, and I'm just not into that at all. I heard the sex scenes were really awkward, and I heard that like the male main character is not very nice, and like I don't know, I'm not into bad boys. I'm not into that whole like I'm mean because I like you moment. So personally, that was a hard pass for me, and I will probably never read an Ali Hazelwood book. The other one is A Little Life by I don't know who wrote it. I just see it all the time with the guy crying on the cover, and I have no interest in that. If you hadn't noticed, I am not really drawn to books that are just like trauma. It's just not for me. I don't cry very easily, so I don't know, I just feel like I get nothing out of books that are just trauma. So that one is another hard pass for me. Question number two is a classic book or author that you have no interest in reading. Okay, y'all are gonna be mad at me, but my answer is Jane Austen. I know. So I have read Pride and Prejudice. I don't know. I think I like her stories because anytime I've seen like retellings or the movie versions, I tend to enjoy them. Like I love the movie Emma. I love Clueless, which is like based on Emma. I like the Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice. So I'm not 100% sure why I just can't get into her books, but I don't know. Everyone says that Pride and Prejudice is like the one to start with, and the fact that I had a really hard time getting through it means that I'm probably not going to try another one. Question number three is an author whose books you have no interest in reading. So this is sort of similar to the next question, so I'm going to go ahead and say that one too. Question number four is an author whose books you've tried and don't have any interest in reading. After that, I guess. Continuing on. So for the first question, an author whose books I don't have any interest in reading, I put Colleen Hoover. I know, which is funny because, you know, I've read Verity, I read Reminders of Him last month, and I'm actually currently reading another one. I can't remember what it's called because I'm doing a video with my best friend who loves Colleen Hoover, and we're gonna like compare thoughts on it. Regretting You, that's what it's called. I don't know. Yes, this will be my third of her books, but like I don't want to read more, I guess, unless it's for like a video or to criticize. But I probably just won't read any more of hers. And the other one that I wanted to say is Lucy Foley. So I have read two of her books. I read The Guest List and The Paris Apartment, and I thought both of them were pretty bad. I read The Guest List when it first came out, and I think I sort of liked it at the time, but over time I definitely have like found such better thrillers. I think I read that when I was just kind of starting to get back into reading, so I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know that that book was terrible. And The Paris Apartment was just was just bad. I read that for my book club, I think in May or April, and my whole book club hated it. I actually ended up like leaving it at a restaurant on purpose because I didn't want it anymore. And I was just like, well, someone will have fun with this probably. Someone will like this book. So yeah, probably not gonna read any more Lucy Foley. Even if it's for book club, I'm probably just gonna skip it. Question number 5 is a genre you couldn't get into or you've tried and you just aren't into at all. And for me, that's definitely fantasy. I have read a few here and there, but it's just not for me. I will say I can handle some small bits of fantasy, such as like Harry Potter, although I don't promote J.K. Rowling's work anymore. I still have, you know, a place in my heart for that book series. But basically what I mean is set in our world, but like there's magical elements going on. So basically for me, it's just like, I just need it explained. If a book like begins in our world and then like they get taken to a magical world, whatever, and then there's fantasy stuff, that's cool with me. I can't do like a whole world of like learning as I go. I want to like learn about this magical world along with the characters, if that makes sense. Other than that, fantasy is definitely not for me. So the next question is a book you've bought but will never read. And I probably have several of these, but the one that first came to mind was The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. This kind of got mixed reviews, I feel like, but a lot of people loved it. I loved The Nightingale that she wrote. I loved The Great Alone. So, I mean, I do like her writing and I do like her stories, but I have just no interest in the Dust Bowl and like that part of history. Just seems kind of boring and sad. Just not interested at all. I hope that Kristen Hanna keeps writing historical fiction, because I know prior to The Great Alone, she was writing a lot of like just contemporary fiction and romances, I think. But she's so good at historical fiction. That's just not a time period that I'm into, and I've owned it forever, and I'm never gonna read it. I know I'm not. Number 7 is a series you have no interest in reading or that you started and DNF'd. And for me, that is the ACOTAR series, A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. So I read the first 2 and I was just like, this is not for me. Everyone said I was gonna love it. They're like, oh, this is the perfect fantasy book for someone who doesn't like fantasy. And I was like, okay. The first one was fine. I was like, okay, everyone says the second one's the best. You're gonna love it. It's gonna get you so hooked. And I felt nothing when I was done with it. I was like, I guess I could read the next one, but I don't feel like I have to know what's gonna happen next. Which wowed a few people. People were like, how do you not want to know? And I was like, I just don't care. So that is definitely my answer for that. I feel like there's other series that I've started and finished, and not finished. I don't know, I'm just not a series girl, but those books are way too long to read just to say I've finished the series. They just would take way too much time out of my life, where I could be reading books I actually want to read. The last question is a new release that you have no interest in reading, and I was trying to come up with something, but I really couldn't think of a like new release that I was very much opposed to reading. So I picked a book that's upcoming, and that is Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. I really did not like her book Every Summer After. It was not for me. I'm pretty sure I ranted about it in a video, and I just like, based on what I've read on like Goodreads, the synopsis of her newest one that's coming out this year, I'm not going to like that either. It's another second chance romance, which to me, I'm just like, do we need to do the same trope in your second book as the first? You can do something else. It also takes place at a lake, and I'm just like, why are we writing the same book again? The cover is also like essentially the same, so don't like that. And I'm sure this is going to be really popular and people are going to love it, but I just don't really feel like reading the same book over again that I didn't like the first time. So that will be a hard pass from me. So that wraps up my anti-TBR book tag. I do want to note that this was originally created by Nicole and her books. I will link the original video down in the description so you can go check that out. I'm sure there are plenty of people who have done this, but she was the OG. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in another video. Bye.